Welcome, my friends, to a show that never ends. Me and Kieran have just spent 2 minutes having a quick chat about the Arsenal-Liverpool game. Kieran isn't very happy. We will talk about Wycombe, of course, and Oxford. That will be our first subject, sort of. We do need to say, to start with, though, that Paul, who we go to see Wycombe Wanderers with, is in hospital at the moment. So if he does get to listen to this while laid in hospital, this is for you. Okay. The music, by the way, that you're going to hear throughout is Dystopian future movies. Okay. I've played their stuff before. This album only came out on Friday. And I'm going to see them in about 3 weeks' time. Can't wait. Okay, Wycombe, Oxford. Yes! Just thought I'd mention that. We beat them. Yes!
Yay.
Yes!
Aren't we all happy?
Aren't we all happy? Kieran, what did you think?
Well, being a big public figure, or public figures that we now are, we should say we hope that Oxford fan is okay for whatever happened there, that caused the 60-minute delay during the first half, which
time wasting, wasn't it?
Potentially trying to get Wycombe a bit riled up potentially. We'll just go through the highlights as we would have seen. Their penalty that they got, a lot of people said it was kind of Farino's fault. I don't think it was. It wasn't the best header back to keeper. The goalkeeper wasn't very brave because he could have just sprinted out and caught the ball and the person would have just run into him and it would have been a foul to Wycombe. Whereas he just stopped and waited for him to touch the ball round him. But luckily he saved it, so good on him for rectifying his mistake.
Badly taken penalty, wasn't it?
Bit obvious, wasn't it? Bit obvious. And you would have thought it'd be the ends that would be the easiest for him because obviously no one behind him to distract him, kind of thing. But there you go. Our goal.
Strange, isn't it?
Strange, but weirdly insanely good.
It was good.
If Mawson has meant that, like that directly, then that is, for that bit, one, unbelievable. Two, the direction that the cross has come into Farino, and for him to head it back in that direction, right into the corner, like the timing and like the head placement and everything is absurdly good. They would try that 10 times and only do it once, and luckily they actually did.
That ball would have hit me in the side of the head had I gone for it.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what we're saying. How he put that on his forehead, coming at him from over there, was very good, wasn't it?
Because the ball comes to the wrong angle for him to head it that way, but he still does, and it absolutely brilliant goal.
Excellent goal. Yeah. Funny, isn't it? Don't need centre forwards, do we?
Well, apparently not. I don't know how
centre backs.
I don't know how much he did on Saturday. My friend who went said that it wasn't the best of games. He's not the biggest Ainsworth fan, in all fairness to him. It wasn't a brilliant game, but we take the 3 points, which I suppose we do at this stage, don't we?
Well, it's not the 3 points. It's beating Oxford. I'll get the thrill from, I have to be honest. I think, on centre forwards, I've said before about, well, actually, we can discuss that in 1 second on the next subject. Stick around, Oxford fans, if it is you that put this on here. You've put this on as an Oxford fan to think, we'll get some chat about the game. I wonder what they have to say. Because we're going to discuss in a little minute, after this, we'll discuss such things as shape shifters, as in players that can play in different parts of the football pitch. And one that would come up for me is sticking Tafazoli up front as a number 9. We discussed that, didn't we?
No,
We haven't. So is it me just spoken to myself about it?
probably.
Right, because
You do tend to do that.
I think stick Tafazoli up there, up front as a number 9. I see no reason he wouldn't be as good as a number 9.
His like acceleration and change of direction isn't like very nippy, is it? I understand Vokes's isn't, but his kind of knack of getting in the box and being in the right place, I can't imagine Tafazoli would have. Of course, it sounds great that he's over 50 meters. He is quick and he is big and he wins headers and all that sort of thing. But I think there's probably a lot more to it than that.
Now, looking at the game, and we've discussed all XG and all that sort of stuff. Virtually, it was 1.96 expected goals for Oxford and 0.35 for Wycombe. They had 29 shots, Oxford. Okay, 29 shots. But they missed them all. Isn't that the norm? Isn't that the norm? I listened to an Oxford thing on YouTube of what he thought of the game. He wasn't overly impressed, and one of the comments was they can rarely score against Wycombe. The manager never changes the type of football he plays when playing against Wycombe, which is what Plymouth did when they beat us. And in fact, he was saying one of the few goals they've scored against Wycombe was a cross, which we remember that in the semi-final. That was being one of the few. I do remember another one that was a penalty that was never a penalty. Do you remember when our centre-back got sent off right at the beginning of the game and we lost 1-0? So there's 2 goals that they've scored against us. One was a cross and one was a penalty that should never have been given. They don't score many against Wycombe. Is there something wrong with their manager? Because they were saying time for him to go. What's his name? I can never remember his name.
Isn't it Phil?
Phil? It's not Phil.
Is it not?
No.
I don't think I'm far off.
Phil. It's Carl Robinson.
Oh,
Carl Robinson.
Phil, I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, so there are mumbles down there. We said this the other day about there are mumbles down there about him going. And
I mean, there always will be if your team is near the bottom of the league, having been in playoff finals and various things in previous seasons. So understandably so. But in saying that, he's 3 points off of us. It could have been easily the other way around.
Yeah, but he's sitting above, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's on the same amount of points as Forest Green, who are in the bottom 4.
Yeah.
Admittedly, Forest Green have let in a few more goals, haven't they? Like they've let in 25, Oxford have let in 12. So that makes a rather big difference. I think Forest Green are definitely in trouble there, along with MK Dons down there in the bottom 4. Yeah, Oxford, what are they going to do? Because they played a player out of position as well. They had a striker playing in the midfield, I believe, on the left-hand side. And the strange thing, what I think that was that Joseph, who's the striker, who. Well, I mean, they got him down as centre mid, but I'm sure they said he was a striker. But anyway, they're in trouble, I think, Oxford. They play 3 at the front, did they? Didn't see much of them. Vokes, what do we do with Vokes?
Have him for the time being, but accept the fact that this will be his last season. for us. Do
we look?
he,
do we look, or do we start looking now, or do we take him off now?
I mean, who do we actually have on the bench? I mean, because Hamden's injured at the moment, isn't he? I'm sure if Hamden was fit, then it wouldn't be so simple for him to get in the team. And then apart from him, we don't really have anyone who normally plays up front. So I don't think it's as like we have Debar on the bench and Kai, but they're not strikers per se.
Is there any way you could actually just take him off and put in Freeman and play with three at the front on the ground?
No. Yeah, but none of them are false nines particularly, are they? They're obviously not known for doing that. Mehmeti, you could argue, could play that role, but it requires the two on the outside to be very, very quick. So you could have potentially McCleary and Kai maybe. But for the system to work, someone like him does need to be in there, and we don't have anyone else like him in our team.
Okay.
His role should be similar to what Akinfenwa had been the previous couple of seasons, but it's not because of the lack of availability we have, unless is Vokes just being a bit lazy because he's a bit younger than Akinfenwa was the last couple of seasons. So you never know. And
what about Max, Mr. Goalkeeper? He's doing all right, isn't he? We have found ourselves another good goalkeeper.
Yeah, there's no problems with him, is there? I'm sure he'll make a mistake or two at some point, won't he? But in terms of
not yet, he hasn't.
No, but I might. There's a reason he'll be at this level as opposed to another level. But thus far, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with him at all.
Yeah. Moving on then, just to mention, our previous goalkeeper might get in the playoffs, but I'm not convinced he's going to go up in the top two. Plymouth and Ipswich flying ahead there. They're actually 4 points. Ipswich are 4 points clear of Sheffield Wednesday now. And Ipswich are ridiculously 11 points clear from Peterborough in 7th. So that's mad. I mean, they've got it. Peterborough are not going to, in 7th, going to catch number 1 or 2. That is for sure. Top 6, Plymouth, Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, Barnsley and Bolton. Didn't all have successful games, did they?
No.
Well, Barnsley lost to Exeter, which was a strange one. We said about Bristol Rovers and Cambridge. We said Cambridge will start going downhill, and they have. Bolton lost to Forest Green. How the flip did that happen? Derby lost to Port Vale, and Derby were at home. Well, so much for flying straight back up there. They're going to be fighting to even get in the playoffs, I think, Derby. Don't think they're good enough. Ipswich beat Morecambe in the bottom 4. And Peterborough drew with Burton. Funny scores out there with 1 or 2 of them. Peterborough trying to catch that top pack of 6, and they drew against, and they were at home, and they drew against Burton. Not good. Portsmouth drew against Fleetwood. Sheffield Wednesday did thrash Cheltenham 3-0, and MK Dons. Well, there's the game that tells you how good you are when you lose to Shrewsbury. I always think Shrewsbury are that bog standard number 1 Division 1 team. They're your average
Yeah, they do always
Division
come
1 team,
like
yeah?
10th to 14th kind of thing, don't they?
They sort of, up, down a bit, up, down, but they're a Division 1 team,
Yeah.
yeah? And if they're beating you, it means you ain't going up.
Yeah. But if you beat them, you're probably not going to go down.
Exactly.
Not a very scientific way of doing it, but
I always think, if we play Portsmouth or we play whoever, but when we play Shrewsbury, we get a clue as to what our season's going to play out like. I know that's a bit daft, I know, but I just, at the moment, I see Shrewsbury as your middleman, so to speak. Okay, moving on. How are we doing? That's quarter of an hour. Okay, moving on then. Shapeshifters. Okay, here's a few players that is what get my thoughts into English. What I want to look at some point is the way there are 18 positions on a football pitch, and those positions tend today to be, you're given a name because of where you play your football on the football pitch, not because of the style of football you play. So where once upon a time, let me explain, a right back would be a right back, and that means they defended the right hand side from the wingers going up the left hand side, and that was their job. Today, I don't see that. I see a right back's job much bigger than that. They mustn't only be able to tackle, they have to be able to cross, head. They're supposed to be able to play in long balls forward, play it back to the goalkeeper, play out from the back. They are all-round footballers. Everybody on that football pitch today are far better all-round footballers, which means they should they not, be able to be picked up, taught the game, and moved.
Potentially.
Okay? Because in theory, they are far better footballers today than they were 20 years ago. They didn't learn their position. They learned football and how to play football, how to head the ball, keep the ball, tackle, cross. They learn everything. They should be all-round great footballers. So the first one I want to discuss is Iwobi. Is that how you pronounce it? Mr. Everton. Now, just to mention, he's scored against United this evening.
They are losing, though.
They are losing, are they?
Ronaldo has scored.
Oh, well. Well, that's what he does.
That's what he does.
He'd be a good goalkeeper, though, wouldn't he? Now, Iwobi was originally a central midfield player. No, sorry, he was a winger. He was a winger, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then when Lampard came in, he stuck him in central midfield. Is he any good?
The times I've seen him play there, he's been all right. I wouldn't say he's a world beater, but he's definitely better than what he was doing on the wing.
Yeah, was he really ever a good winger? I don't remember him being.
Well, he had periods of time where he absolutely was, hence the fee that Everton bought him for. But he was always very inconsistent, as wingers generally are.
But what he has to be, though, as a central midfielder, is intelligent. Now, I don't. That sounds a little bit sort of, a bit cruel to say that. So the others aren't. But what if you're running a game from central midfield, because that is where where the game is won and lost, is it not? In central midfield, whoever's got the control of, whoever thinks, you have to be able to fast in central midfield. Yeah. If you're a winger, you know what you're doing. In central midfield, you've got to have your eyes everywhere. And is it that, do you think, you've got to have a better understanding and be more intelligent to play there, and do you think he is?
It doesn't give you the impression that he is, but that's very probably mean to say just on face value. I don't know the bloke. I assume he must be intelligent in some respects, or I mean, he hasn't got a bad coach to teach him in terms of being a central midfielder, does he?
That's true. He's probably got the best coach for midfield that you'd get. Bit of a bugger him trying to teach anybody anything else. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
Do you think players have a natural position?
Yeah, they must, like, you are, each player will have certain physical attributes that will suit them to a certain position. I don't know why this player has come to my head, but Aaron Lennon was evidently a winger. He was definitely not a striker. He definitely wasn't a fullback, and he definitely wasn't a midfielder. He was a winger, and he was only a winger, because he was small, quick, and could cross a ball. Hence, he was a winger. Any centre back today are tall, strong, and can head it. That's basically what allows you to be a centre back. Unless you can be those things, but be a bit more egotistical, and therefore you're a striker.
So, do you think? I know he didn't play great, I'm afraid. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Do you think he's similar to Saka?
Well, that he could play on the wing.
Do you think? Yeah. Aren't they both sort of playing a same position, except Trent Alexander-Arnold gets stuffed with having to play as a fullback as well? But isn't he really? Couldn't he just come on instead of Saka for Arsenal?
You do wonder if Liverpool had a different right back, or another right back that could do the right back position just as well as, or even better than Trent does now, which probably wasn't very difficult. Whether you could pretty much give him the right hand sides to just let him do what he wants.
Put a player behind him.
Yeah, like I'm sure, because we bought a right back from Aberdeen in the summer, I think, and I imagine that's what he could potentially have been used for. This is where you ask the question: could Trent play centre mid? Centre mid, you get the impression wouldn't really suit him. Based like his passing, yes, absolutely, but him being aware of his surroundings the whole time, you don't get that impression that he would do that from right back or from centre mid. So, would he be more suited as a winger?
He was. That's where he played up to the age of 17. You know, he was a winger up to the age of 17. It was then they pulled him out and turned him into fullback. And I wonder whether they got that wrong.
It's difficult to say because, in terms of, because his defensive frailties, like, people have always kind of known about them, but they've never been so heavily exposed as they have done this season. It's not like the last 4 or 5 seasons this has been a consistent problem. There have been times where he's been excellent at defending and attacking. And, like, in terms of a right back in the Premier League, there are very few who have had better seasons than him ever. But is that all down to the system? Probably.
I wonder if he can be taught to play in a different position. And this is where your nature-nurture sort of turns up. I wonder, you see, you used to play where? In centre midfield?
So
when you started, when you were
well,
so high, when you were tiny,
yeah.
where did you play?
Well, I was defender, wasn't I?
Did you want to be a defender?
Not necessarily, no.
Why were you a defender?
So I was big.
So you learned the game by playing in a position because of your size.
Yeah.
But you were a better forward than, and in 10 minutes.
Just you can add it on. We'll do another one.
I just think, would you have been better being pushed forward and playing as a forward?
Actually, potentially, yeah. Because I'd like to think my shooting is very good. And if I'd learned from a young age to be a forward and been consistent with it, then I think I probably could have been. That's why I went to fullback and wanted to be an attacking fullback.
See, the trouble with fullback is when they make a mistake, Trent Alexander-Arnold, when he makes a mistake, everybody zooms in on him.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake in the midfield, that doesn't happen. You can have good and bad games and get away with it. You have a bad game as a right or left back, your team loses.
It doesn't. Well, it does now. Yeah.
It does now. But it still doesn't if you have a bad game in the midfield. Arsenal versus Liverpool. Ødegaard didn't have a good game.
No.
But it didn't matter. You see, he didn't have to have a great game. Does it matter whether you could a right back now play on the left hand side and a left back on the right? Does it matter which side of the pitch you go on?
Well, if you're there to defend, then I think it does matter. Just because if you're defending against someone, it depends who you're playing up, who you're up against. Because if you're going up the line, it's very difficult to tackle with your outside foot, as opposed to if you are right-footed playing at right back, you can get your foot in much more easily. But then, in terms of crossing further up the pitch, it is more ideal to have a right-footed player on the left-hand side, isn't it? So,
and shouldn't the training today be you learn both? Saka can play with both right and left, can't he?
Yeah, but it's never the same, is it? Very, very few players can be the same quality on both feet. They can, but not to the same extent.
So, all-rounders, do you agree that everybody has to be an all-rounder now?
Yes.
Not just Mr. Right back.
I mean, there's a whole thing of a ball-playing centre-back now, isn't it?
Because everybody has to be a James Milner, in fact. Ben White, he was a centre-back and he now plays right back.
Yeah.
And he can cross the ball well. It ups his value with the squad, but it's killed his England career, hasn't it?
Yeah. I don't think he's that brilliant anyway. I wouldn't particularly want to see him at centre back or right back in the England shirt. I'd imagine he'd be just like overshadowed and he'd get a bit bullied at international level. Like I think Olivier Giroud was bullying.
Yeah. Joe Linton, he was number 9 under Wally Bruce. He was a laughing stock, wasn't he?
He was
2 goals in one season as a centre forward.
Yeah, he was dictated as the worst player in the league, wasn't he?
Yeah. Moved to winger and then left of midfield. How good is he now?
He's insanely good, isn't he?
Whose fault is that?
That
he was so bad. Was that his or the manager? Did the manager almost ruin his career?
No, because he was played as a striker as well at the club that he came from, and I think as a striker coming to the Premier League, it's very, very difficult to start scoring goals if you don't immediately, which he didn't, and therefore that just carried on. So he needed to change of position, much closer to when he arrived than it did happen. So I don't think it was Bruce's. It was a bit. He took too long to change the position. Well, he didn't actually change the position in the end. It took time for someone else to come in and do that, but it wasn't all his fault. I don't think. He has the attributes to play up front, but he just wasn't very good up front.
Ericsson, number 10, and drift wide at Spurs is what he did. At United, he's playing deep midfield. He's been both good and bad. He'll probably be moved around, won't he?
I mean, you find that with the older kind of attacking mids, don't you? I mean, Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes all were, up and down like yo-yos during their 20s. And then their 30s, they were deep line midfielders. So evidently, that is a trend.
And he went from number 10. Scholes went from 10 to 6, didn't he? Number 10 to number 6. So problem for him is, do you think he was a bad buy? Because isn't Ericsson and Fernandes trying to play the same position? You can't surely have both on the pitch at the same time.
Well, if Ericsson is supposedly a CDM and Bruno's the cam, then you're okay. But it does get a little bit complicated in there because he obviously wants to play Casemiro. And Fred was playing well when he was in the team and all that sort of thing. So it's not too simple fitting them all in, but they seem to be doing okay at the moment, don't they?
Connor Cody. There was always this talk that for England, if we had 3 at the back, Connor Cody was your man. But at the moment, he's playing in a back 4. And he's doing really well. So the whole idea of giving a player a label, bit dangerous, is what I'm saying with people like him. I mean, I'm sure I remember thinking, he's good in a 3. If England play 3, we've got Connor Cody. Never occurred to me, but why not try him in a back 4? I mean, just seemed rather daft. Historically, as a player that sort of moved positions was the striker Ashley Cole, who turned into a left back. We said about Paul Scholes. Well, Steven Gerrard then. He moved, didn't he?
Centre mids, right back, 10, left mid, up front for England at one point.
So it's when you lose pace, but still have that intelligence, you can stay on that football pitch and just take one step back in the midfield, yeah?
Yeah. Thiago used to be a cam. Don't know how, because he wasn't never quick, but...
So like Wayne Rooney, who went from a number 9 to a number 10 to a number 8, went behind the number 8, became a player manager, became a manager, got even older, went from the Championship to America. And that is how your football career runs. The only position he didn't play was goalkeeper.
Well,
got the ears for it. So block the left-hander, right?
Bless him.
And then I want you to name the one player in the Premier League you would try out.
Okay.
Well, my name I've decided on was putting Edison in midfield. I reckon he's good at passing the ball around. Don't you?
No, he is. We know he is. And yeah, you actually probably could.
I'd be interested
Mick,
just for one game when they're winning 7-0, right?
Yeah.
When they're thrashing Liverpool next week 7-0,
Probably.
just to move Edison out and put him in midfield and see how he gets on. That's what I'd like to see. How about you?
I mean, it's probably the get out one because he kind of nearly plays there already. But I was going to say Reece James on the wing or further up front. Like he plays right wing back, but it's not quite the same. He's just got physically, he always looks really good. He's got pace. He scores quite a few. Doesn't seem to be too much wrong with that.
And the interesting thing was that's where I got the Tafazoli number 9 from, because I wrote it down here when I was trying to think of a player I would have a go at.
Yeah,
I put Wycombe, Tafazoli number 9. So when we've got the 3 centre backs and we don't have a full number 9, move him up and see how he gets on. I'd be interested. And mind you, Mawson, I better be even better at it.
I mean, he scored that ridiculous goal like 6 years ago. If you remember it, you probably don't. There was Messi, so.
Well, in fact, what's his face who scored this week for Wycombe?
No,
he's pretty light on his feet. He's quick.
No, he's not.
No, you wouldn't.
No, never in a million years.
Okay, moving on then. We might leave the Premier League and all your moaning about Liverpool sort of out there for a minute because we don't have very long. But I just want to bring this one in. Did you know the Oxford English Dictionary has been updated? Did you see this?
Yes.
And what's gone in from football? The park the bus is now a term that the Oxford English Dictionary, he says, trying to use good English. Zonal marking is in there, total football. But the one that I think is really funny is squeaky bum time is now considered an English sort of phrase. The thing is, have you seen what they've put squeaky bum time in for? What do you think it means?
Wasn't it Ferguson's last minute antics at the end of the game to get United 3 points or something?
Yeah, but what they've actually put in the dictionary is the noise made when moving on a chair backwards and forwards.
Great.
So they didn't get it quite right.
No,
that's brilliant. And really, we're gonna sort of finish. We might finish with a.
We don't have to talk about the Premier League. Don't worry.
No, we don't have to talk about the Premier League. But I do want to mention this because this you might not even know. Do you know what a semi-automated offside is?
Isn't it what they're using in the Champions League?
It is. They've started using it in the Champions League and they're going to be using it in the World Cup. And what it is the robots are around. And they've started using this semi-automated offside in major competitions in the Championship to start with. They practiced using it in other different games across the world that didn't matter because, of course, only the Premier League really matters.
Yep.
And what they have is they have 10 to 12 specialist cameras, like the NHS having a specialist cameras hung from the roofs of the grandstands. They will follow the movement of all 22 players and via limb tracking technology, they collect 29 data points per player 50 times every second. Do you get that?
Yes.
Yeah. And a tracking device is put in the center of the ball, which then beams its location to the VAR room 500 times per second. So what that actually means is when there's an offside decision, image processing algorithms provide a clear picture of events almost immediately. This in turn is relayed to the human VAR. Is there one? Who is then tasked with making the final offside decision. But what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to change the timing, and instead of lasting over a minute to decide something's offside, this should now only take 25 seconds and will be even more accurate and less prone to being a human error. How it's a human error in the first place, how they get any of them wrong, I don't know, considering. But now, because of this whole robot system over those football pitches, there's no moment in time that they can't take a look at. Whereas up till now, they've had stills of times moving along, and of course the ball might leave the foot between those stills. Now it's just wiped that off the board. There is no way they can now get it wrong. That's the theory.
They'll still find a way, don't worry.
Oh yeah, we'll still argue. Yeah, we'll still argue. Yeah, they'll give penalties for things that aren't penalties.
Don't they just?
Like Thiago's today.
Yes.
But we won't bring that up, will we?
I still think it probably was a penalty, but I'm annoyed, aren't I?
Okay. So. Do you want a quick, say, 3-sentence, so we say 3 sentences, sum up the...
all the games. I can do 3 sentences on all the games if you want.
A whole PL Premier League, yeah.
Let me just get up the fixtures. Right. What's the date? It's taken me somewhere bizarre. Right. Saturday, Bournemouth 2, Leicester 1. My housemate wasn't very happy because she's a Leicester fan. Bournemouth are oddly doing quite well now, having got rid of Scott Parker.
Above Liverpool in the league.
Above Liverpool, even though we beat them 9-0. So that's good. They look like they could well be heading towards safety, Bournemouth. I know it's very early to say that, but like you can kind of tell when teams are going up or down, and they look pretty good. Leicester, it's not good if you lose to Bournemouth. They are in trouble.
Leicester are in trouble
because they've got no really, really good striker, to be honest. Chelsea 3, Wolves 0. Wolves look in trouble, to be fair. It was like when who got relegated? They were like really good one season and then got relegated. Can't remember. Could have been Bournemouth, actually. No, it wasn't Bournemouth. Don't know, but either way, Wolves have been like there's no chance of Wolves getting relegated, but they look horrendous. And so they could look like they're on their way out. Chelsea, they should beat Wolves at home, quite honestly. Potter ball is in full effect. City 4, Southampton 0. Haaland only scored 1, quite disappointing for my fantasy team. But is anyone...
He failed, didn't he?
He did. It was pointless from Haaland that weekend.
Yeah, only the one.
Can't wait for him to score a hat-trick against Liverpool next week. It's going to be fun. Newcastle 5, Brentford 1. They look good.
Do you like that facial expression?
Yeah. Your favourite team, Newcastle, are doing quite well now. they did look good. Bruno Grib, whatever the flip his name is, looks excellent, doesn't he? Would he
Can I
get
just
snapped
say
up?
that the country that owns Saudi Arabia, they haven't changed at all. They're still killing people,
The country
and
that
torturing
owns
them. So strange, but football hasn't changed anything. I read that. I was reading an article of it in the paper the other day, and it's
you mean Saudi Arabia, who owns Newcastle?
yes. Yes, nothing's changed. I don't.
No.
So just to say, nothing's changed. A bit like how well Russia changed after the World Cup. Really worth giving it to these countries.
In saying that, and of course that is completely valid, all these teams will have something horrendous. It's just a bit more in the limelight being from Newcastle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, their win against Brentford didn't count because they're being twats.
Love Tony's penalties. I have to say, he did score his penalty. The one, loved it. I love his penalty taking.
Brighton 0, Tottenham 1. Who cares? Didn't see any of it.
Yeah. Don't make a blind bit of difference to the Football League.
No,
the two teams that are going to come 8th and 9th or 7th and 8th. Yeah. The two that are just not going to quite make it.
Well, Spurs look all right, actually. They're thirds, aren't they? I can't remember. Anyway, don't really mind/care. Kane scored. Great. West Ham 3, Fulham 1. Yeah, good for them. Palace 2, Leeds 1.
I watched that.
Good. I like Palace. You can do this 3-sentence thing then.
I thought Bamford looked sharpish. He'll be amazing when he's sharper. Crystal Palace have got some great players. There is no doubt. And
big up our boy Eze.
Scored their second goal when Leeds were clearly better. So I thought a draw would have been fairer in that game.
Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. We were rubbish. Firmino's our best player this season, which is not good. Someone please go and help Trent's mindset. I'm not going to have a go at him because I'm sure he must be in the same kind of mindset that Maguire's now in for United.
Yeah. We should try and put a team together next week of players that are feeling really bad and not playing at all well.
Somehow that wasn't really what I was alluding to.
Oh, right.
But someone go make sure he's okay. Thiago's fancy stuff doesn't come off, and then when it doesn't, he is the most frustrating man on the planet. Arsenal looked, I don't think, extravagantly good. Their goals were pretty good, I suppose. But yeah, good for them. They're not going to win the league though because Haaland won't let them. And United are currently beating Everton. So,
and probably will, I would imagine.
And probably will. Looks like United are back.
Ronaldo scored, and so did Anthony. Ronaldo does what he does, and it was assist was Casemiro, and Martial was also an assist on the first goal. So they're back. They're back. They're back.
Wow, I'm so happy for them.
Okay, that sums up your Premier League. We've had an interesting time. Shall we say goodbye then, Kieran?
Goodbye.
And I'll say goodbye. And don't forget,